Your latest book, I have the name of it here, it's called Fragile, Why We Feel More Anxious, Stressed and Overwhelmed Than Ever. So that's a huge topic, very interesting and very pertinent, unfortunately, now more than ever probably. So what's the take-home message now? I'm encouraging everyone obviously to go out and buy the book for Christmas and that,
Yeah.
but what exactly do you delve into as being the reason why we're more anxious than ever?
Why we're more anxious is because we're asking so much of ourselves. There's too many demands on us. And so we're trying to fit too much into our day. And if you go too fast, almost like a hamster in a cage, you're going too fast, you're going too speedy, and you end up wired and nervy. And as a result, an awful lot of us are anxious. And not only that, we're expecting too much from life. So, for example, for Christmas, we're expecting all these perfect moments, not just a perfect Christmas day, a perfect putting up the decorations day, and a perfect buying presents day, and we're perfect Christmas carols day. We're putting up to all this expectation and demands on ourselves is creating anxious and kind of unsettled people who feel very nervous and feel very inadequate. And the book, more than anything, is trying to tap into our inner strength and learn to say, nah, I don't want, not only do I not want to do the things I don't want to do, but sometimes I'm going to have to say no to the things I do want to do for my mental health. Because if I try to do 6 things today, I'll end up frazzled and there will be a fallout. And so the book is trying to tap into, if you're feeling fragile and if you're feeling anxious, you need to come back and start making better decisions for yourself so that you feel better in the long term as opposed to short. Yeah, give me the vodka.
And so for children, is it much the same? Or is
Very,
it...
very similar. And I don't think we should madly distinguish between an anxious child and an anxious parent, because I think for a lot of people think all these external like worry boxes and worry stones and worry bears and all that will help the children. Well, ultimately what will help the child is to figure out what is going wrong and attend to that. What is making them anxious? And I know some people come out of the womb and they are more anxious than others, but just like some people come out of the womb with dyslexia, they need help with their reading. Some people come out very shy, they need help to look at people in the eye and say hello. And people who come out very anxious, they need help to kind of talk themselves down, to talk themselves through a certain situation so that they feel better in themselves. And I think sometimes giving these children these kind of external solutions tells the child that the solution is out there instead of inside. And that's the strongest message in my book, is that actually the solution's inside, you just have to find it.
Is there a reason we appear to be less resilient than previous generations? And does that tie into why we become more anxious or worried about where our lives are going?
There seems to be, Jonathan Haidt wrote that great book, The Coddling of the American Mind. And in that, he discusses all the reasons why we have kind of, a lot of people, it's become very beneficial to identify as a victim, and in a way it's become more, what's the word, it's the sensible response that if you get better status as somebody who is fragile, well then a lot more people will say I'm fragile, because deep down I don't know how you feel and you don't know how I feel. So if you say you're fragile and you need your lunch sooner, well I'll say, well, actually, I am too. And I might be even more fragile than you, but I might have a more resilient coping mechanism. And then when I hear you have it, I think, oh, well, hang on, I'm going through a lot to get to this place. I don't know if I'm being garbled here, but yeah, I think it's very important that we start empowering people to be strong instead of suggesting that people are weak.
And so is part of that to do with the way children are wrapped in cotton wool in certain circumstances?
Very much so. Yeah, my first book is Cotton Wool Kids, and I wrote that because so many parents who came to me, there was a sense of joylessness in the parenting, even though they had everything. They had houses and good education and lovely children, but they were kind of wrecking it. Almost, do you remember Father Ted, and he had a little bump in his car and he came out to give it a little back. The next thing he'd mangled the whole car. That's what the parents were doing. They had a lot to be happy about, but were fixated on one thing, and generally safety was getting this overblown status when we've never been safer. We've never had less car deaths. We've never had less infant mortality. We've never had a healthier society. We've never had better education. But instead of us reveling in all this, we're actually being really, really anxious about the unlikely scenario of something bad happening to us.
And is gratitude something to do with it, do you think?
Yeah. Gratitude is brought in as definitely a key strategy to start appreciating what you have makes you less likely to start being anxious about random dangers. In a way, it's just a kind of a reflexive mental habit that you really have to kind of, and it's almost like trying to lose 10 stone. If you're in a very dark habit of anxiety, it would be like the commitment of losing 10 stone. To get yourself out of that habit, you'd have to give yourself a year or two. Say, I have to get myself out of the habit of ruining everything by worrying and worrying, ruining everything on myself by worrying all the time.
So I have a theory that with mass media, we're all watching images on social media, TV, etc., and we're always watching the highlight reel of people's lives.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to give the best impression of their life, that they're having a fantastic time, and therefore naturally for the users of social media, or if you're watching TV non-stop, you start to grow in your discontent with your own life and become disillusioned and unhappy more and more, and asking questions about how I can possibly come to live a life like what I'm seeing other people live. Whereas in the past that wasn't an issue because there wasn't really access to mass media as we know it digitally. And so it seems to me as well the emergence particularly of social media has just wreaked havoc in young people's minds.
Yeah, it really has, and it's like a poison chalice because it's brilliant. The internet's brilliant, and it brings so much great stuff. But with it, it's like, what did they say about drink? It's a good master. What a bad master, but a good servant. Yeah. It's the same, that you have to learn to manage your intake, and you have to learn to manage how much you're kind of pressing buttons, and kind of that nerviness and the constantly looking at people whose lives seem to be so much happier than yours. It just chips away at your life, at your esteem, at your sense of purpose. It chips away at you constantly. It's something that I think we're going to have to manage, just like we manage donuts and drink and other things. You can't have too much of it because it impacts.
It seems to be creating a health crisis.
I don't know, yeah. I think it's a combination. I think it's a combination of things, but I do think that, social media is powerfully destructive in some people's lives.
Well, Stella, thank you for coming on to our social media platform here at Gript.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks very much.